now I have the pleasure of inviting the only wizard that I know to the stage. The person that crafted those beautiful words that you saw at the beginning of the show, Tien Neo Eamas, and we're going to have a jam session about transcending gender.
Thank you.
So for those that, you can catch the video on our YouTube channel. I'll put that plug in. But what that clip was just a small segment of you describing how you were seen through your life. And maybe you can just fill in the crowd for that little bit that happened before in Singapore, I believe, back then.
In Singapore? Well, no, actually, if we, life in Singapore had not that much to do with the so-called trans experience that I had here. It was a completely different experience.
Okay, then correct me.
Okay, so I was born in Singapore in 1968 into a mixed race, mixed class, fundamentalist Christian family. And Singapore then was not the awesome super first world that we all watched in the Crazy Rich Asians movie last year. I know of people like that, and part of my family was of that class, but it was a very third world country at that point. And that was the environment I was born into. And I was given the gender identity or the gender label female. And that was life then. So I was treated as a girl and in a very strict abusive family. So life was, here's the really funny thing about it, right? People will always say to me, so when did you know you were different? And I always say, I was never different. I just was me. But as I lived my life, I noticed that I was treated a certain way that wasn't who me really was. I was treated like what they called a girl should be treated. And I went, but I'm just me. So I grew up in that environment, and that was life in Singapore. And then I did come here when I was 19.
Yeah, and the part of what you said that resonates, it keeps resonating in my head, was how you were seen and showing us how to see. Mm-hmm. So you can see past what's in front of us. But when did you, I'm sure through your past, you have a lot of examples, but for someone who's learning to see, like myself, how do we consciously take these biases and learn to just put them on hold for just a little moment and see what's in front of us?
Very good. Thank you for that question. I think it's now after years of going through all the various abuse and violence and oppressions and dealing with people's hatred and all those kinds of things that humans do to each other when we're not being nice to each other. After decades of living that, I know that my passion really is exactly that, right? It's how do you connect with the soul in front of you. So I think most of that lesson did come between 2002 to about 2009. When I chose to transition in 2002, I was the first Asian trans man to transition in Vancouver in the then gay and lesbian community. Now, LGBTQ is hip as fuck now, right? Like everybody's transitioning, you got like a they, and I'm a he, and I'm a she, and I'm a non-binary, and I'm non-conforming. All of those crazy, awesome words are a great indicator of how far we've evolved to, which is beautiful. And there's a lot more work to do, because now we're even giving even more labels, to continue not being present. You get that? Because now I look at you and you have this big label that says he, her, or he, whatever, right? You know, you see like people wear buttons, she, them, something, and suddenly you're no longer present. You're looking at that button and in your head and you're going, okay, now what was that thing I learned in sexual orientation and gender identity? What do I, oh my God, and suddenly you are gone. And soul in front of you still never got seen. So I learned this lesson when I transitioned, because the community then didn't like trans people. Okay, let's just be honest. Gay and lesbians did not like trans people, because we were fucking up their belief of sex is this sex means this gender, likes this sex that is also this gender, and we're both the same. And trans said, no, we are a whole bunch of other things. So they had to deal with that. And then the mainstream trans world, mainstream cisgendered, heteronormative world was way behind that, right? They were like, whatever, we don't know what to do with you, so we'll just lock you in a cage or whatever. So I learned when I transitioned that my own community didn't like me. My own chosen community of Asian lesbians, who was my family for 10 years, had no idea what to do with me. So I lost everybody. And as I transitioned, you don't just go into an island somewhere and suddenly you have this great sex change and everything's beautiful and you look like the perfect man. The body doesn't work that way. And then when you're Asian, it's a whole different other things, right? Transitioning in Vancouver, when at that time the model for trans men was white. So I'd go see the psychiatrist and they'd be like, you're not a man. Or, you know, are you ready? I like telling this story because this one's always funny, right? So the psychiatrist says to me, okay, so are you ready? Are you ready to transition? Are you ready for sure? Are you ready to go through all the hormones and all of that? Are you ready to become hairy and stinky and big? And I look at the guy and I go, dude, I'm becoming a guy. I'm not becoming a white guy. And that happened repeatedly, which reminded me, oh my God, here we go again. The psychiatric model, of course, for whatever man is white. So I got all this race stuff to manage, and then, you know, all that hormone stuff. And everything is going on, so I'm transitioning very slowly, because I knew I did not want to throw my body into crazy medical hormones, because I had a very nice, clean, chemical-free body, and I knew it would go crazy. So I did it very slowly. So over a stretch of 6 years, I looked weird. According to how you should look on planet Earth, the transition phase has you looking kind of odd, because you're neither here nor there, and your energy is all weird, you're all insecure, your body's changing, you're going through puberty at age, 33, so you're in so much pain, because your bones are, nerves and skull, everything is changing, plus you're horny as fuck. So all this stuff, plus you gotta learn how to act like a man. What is all that? Like, how do you manage this? And then you gotta deal with everybody's talking to you like not talking to you. So I went through 6 years of people never talking to Tien, because they were in their heads all the time. Because trans wasn't big, remember? There was only like 1 in 3,000s at that point, or 5,000. Now it's like every other person is a trans person. So we're used to it, right? We're used to, you know, it's kind of like when you suddenly see a pineapple, you've never seen a pineapple before, you're like, what the fuck, you know, no, you're looking at it, trying to figure it out, you know, in your head. And then suddenly there's a lot more pineapples, and you're like, oh yeah, right, that's a pineapple, no big deal. That's humans, yes? So I'll give you an example of what happened when I would go through personal development training, because I did a lot of that work in about 2007 to 2009. And I would be in a class, and I would be around hundreds of people for like 3 years, 2-3 times a week. And this was constant, where I would be in a group of people, and we would be sharing some story, some homework, and pretend you're me, okay? And so the teacher has said, okay, do this thing and share this work, And now you report to each other. So you are me, and I'm your partner. And so you're going to share some homework that we did together. Okay? Okay, we're going to sit closer because it's just more impactful that way. Okay. So this is how we really sat in class. So, okay, tell me what you got from the last homework. I'm not me, okay? This one's me. Don't mix the Asian up, okay? Just blah, 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 some shit. Doesn't matter. And look at me when you're doing it.
This is a lot more difficult than I thought it would be to come up with a scenario. It's like I'm horny as fuck. Like, what do I
No,
don't.
you can't say that. Nobody don't say that. Just talk about your homework. Your homework was like, did you look at your parents and your past and some belief? Just make some stuff up. It's not really about you.
Yeah, I went. I went to go say hi to my dad, and I asked him like to show me how to do stuff, like as if I was a son. And he just looked at me weird and went back to reading his newspaper, and I didn't know how to deal with that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Was it good?
It wasn't good.
Oh, okay. That was 3 years of my life.
Oh,
Three times
that was
a
like the
week.
worst 3 minutes I've ever felt. 30 seconds. It wasn't even. Honestly, that was just imagining that.
I know a lot of women, yes, women who think you're women and live your lives as women, have experienced this, yes? Sexism is such that, men who think that they're men stare at your boobs a lot. Yes? That's sexism. And it's a whole different level when you're being in the body that you're in and someone is staring at your chest and your crotch the whole time. Because all they're doing is their mammalian brain is trying to figure out something about you. And they cannot overcome that because it is so instinctual. And they can never be present. And that I would say that is a reason why so many trans people have killed ourselves. Because one of the most fundamental things in human nature is to be seen and heard. Just like our friend talked about, right? When we're looking at people, or you even shared, when you talk to people in the downtown east side, to just go up and be present and listen to the person and talk to the person. Because that is a human need to be seen and heard. And when you don't fall into the correct gender bracket, people have no idea what to do with you, and you are never seen and never heard. So that was my experimental phase of about 6 years of not being seen and heard on that level. Plus all the, systemic inaccess of being of color, of not having family, being disowned by my family as a result, and then having all sorts of abuse history in my family and of me. And then the loss of, my own queer community at that point, everything, right? Everything, all of those different experiences had me really understand the value of being present with humans, and has me now, as I can say, has taught me the lesson so I can now develop the work that I do or speak so that I can teach how you be with a human being in front of you so that you're always present. And when you are present, we are one, right? And when we're one, that's all, as you talked about, Vanessa, right? We're just all, everybody's connected. And it's a soul connectedness. And this noisy thing called our brain no longer exists.
I'm going to admit right now that my brain is completely like blue screen of death, like seized, trying to process what he just asked me to role play there. And
What are you trying to process?
what to have asked you, or what to have come up with the homework. So I'm going to go and relay this mic if anyone in the audience has a question for Tien. No?
Oh,
Okay.
come on, ask it all. I've heard it all.
What?
Let's make it fun.
It was when I when you said there and to be seen, now that I think back, the part of me being seen growing up, which I only am aware of right now, was this massive desire to be acknowledged, because I was one of 4 Asian kids, the only Chinese kid in a class of 80, and everyone else was white.
Yeah.
And they only played with me because we ran the corner store, so they had to be nice to me. But
It wasn't the laundromat?
no,
It was the corner store?
It was the corner store. Yeah. We were like the Jeffersons. We were one level up. One level up.
The one, excellent.
But it was, now that I think back, it was this desire to fit in, to belong, and I did whatever I could to fit in, at really a risk of losing my own identity. So, how was that for you?
The fitting in
Yeah.
here in Canada after I transitioned or
At
Or
any point
tried.
that comes up for you.
fitting in is definitely, I would say it's a social norm for humans, because we are mammals that like to be in groups of people. That's how we are automatic. We're automatic social beings. And there is an interesting, once again, I'd say it's a mammalian need to be part of a pack. We all think that we really are that evolved, but at the end of it, we're still mammals. And, we pee and poop like mammals, and, we have instincts like mammals to self-protect, to hide. When the flame hits you, your hand gets removed. There are a lot of mammalian things that happens in our physical nervous system that we don't really control. So, we're part of a social group. And the social group pretty much means you are of a same kind. So it's part of our inherent nature to want to fit in. So if you look at high schools, which I've never been to high school in this country, so it's a very fascinating cultural norm to watch high school movies. But I would assume it's kind of like what they call the cliques, right? The cliques would all, sit together. The nerds would sit together. The mean girls sit together. The weird, goths sit together. And the Asians will sit together. And why? Because there's a relatedness and there's a fitting in part. So I'd say that fitting in is crucial in our development and our desire, because it's the same. It's to be seen and to be heard. And for me, during those years of not being seen and not being heard and struggling to find people to be the same with, there was nobody like me. And my closest were white trans friends. So at least there was a similarity in a trans experience. However, even in the trans experience, there's so much diversity, right? I'm a bigendered trans man, I guess. I don't really care. I like wearing men's clothes. I have actions and behaviors and expressions that are considered mannish, but I'm also bigendered, so I have a whole different side of me that expresses myself as a woman as well. And I pick and choose when's the best time so it doesn't screw people up too much. And I can have fun with it, because at the end of it, for me, gender is just expression. It's not who you are. It's how you wear, how you dress, how you talk, how you flirt, how you sit, how you whatever. It's not who you are. You are soul. And for me, that journey of not being seen for so long, even from childhood, had me go through this period of intense hatred. And I did go through that place of internalizing everybody's weirdness with me and awkwardness and hatred and phobias and all of that stuff. I internalized it all, and I did end up hating myself because there was nobody. There was no other relatedness. And so that's what actually ended up as a result. And I did, in 2009, attempt to kill myself in the spring. And that really was the pivotal point where all those lessons of hardship got internalized. And I really played the victim for years, because it was just me. It was me. It was everybody else's fault. It was your fault that I can't get my ID. It's your fault that you treat me like shit. It's your fault that you won't You know, you talk to me weird, or you make fun of me in front of other people and call me horrible names, or you beat me, or anything like that, or I have no access. It's always your fault. So I learned to internalize it, and I became the victim.
So if there is one thing that you could share with us to allow us to see the soul in front of us, what would that be?
We have to acknowledge that part of our automatic way of looking at the world is always filtered. We have to acknowledge it. You cannot pretend. One of my most hated phrases from people is, "Oh, I don't see color." I say, unless you're blind, you can never use that word. This color is different well, this one may be the same, but this color is different than that color. You see difference. The point is of any systemic oppressions or judgments is that you have a judgment, a negative judgment that belittles someone else because of that difference. Seeing color is natural as hell. Of course you better see color, because if you don't see color, you're not acknowledging the fact that I am not like you. And you're pretending that I don't exist for the difference that my color is. So what was the point again? What was the question?
What could we do to see
Okay, very good.
soul?
So we have to acknowledge we do have filters that we see each other at. Don't pretend to be holier than thou. Don't pretend that you're that spiritual, because that's very irritating. I do see you, right? I see you, white man. I see you. And then I will notice I have an automatic filter that has been taught to me through years of racism that has me go, I hate you, white man. You kill our kind. You treat me bad. You always get great stuff, and I don't get shit all. That's my filter. And we have to acknowledge we have that filter. That's the most important thing. So quit pretending that you're holier than everybody else, and you can see soul right away. Because you know what? I have all sorts of shit that I'm thinking about you right now. And I acknowledge it. And I know I am thinking it. And I can go, oh, you're right. I'm just thinking that thing. Then I put it aside, and I become present. So whether your filter is about race, or class, or gender, confusion, or poverty, or the way someone looks, or the way someone's dressing, or age, or ability, or no arm, or flat face, whatever that filter is that you're having an automatic response to. It's supposed to be there. It's okay. Don't pretend it's not there. Right? Resistance is persistence. If you keep saying it's not there because I'm holier than you, I'm a big soul, and I'm soul being, I can see you. So no, don't do that. So acknowledge that you're thinking this funny thing about that person and say, oh, you're right, I'm having this thought about this person. And you look that person in the eye, and you just look at them in the eye. And then you breathe, and you talk to them. And it's gorgeous. Just practice this with each other, and it will make you cry. Because there was love. There is love. When you look at that person in the eye, you have no idea who you are. But this heart just goes, poof. Practice it, you will cry.
Tien Neo Eamas, everyone.